tackling the future. The NFL goes clean and green, from football teams turning to solar energy.
Other teams will see this and say, this is the future, we need to be doing this.
To players taking charge on their home turf.
I just allow people to see that it is okay, NFL player riding in a small Prius.
And a look at some of the hurdles to renewable energy across America.
If I've got 100 feet of pier that's just sitting out there in the sun all day long, why can't I put solar panels on it?
Clean energy technologies face not in my backyard opposition, the red tape that's making it harder to go green. Plus, the global clean energy race.
We were the first ones to make the transistor in the integrated circuit and first people to make the internet, right? Why are we behind in energy?
Meet the scientist in charge of the government's cutting-edge research to find new ways to power the country. This is Energy Now. Hello everyone, I'm Thalia Ashuras. Welcome to Energy Now, a weekly look at America's energy challenges and what we're doing about them. With terms like high energy offense and power running game, there is a connection between football and energy, and it's not only on the field. With all the lights and scoreboards and everything else an NFL stadium runs on game day, you're talking about big energy challenges. In fact, over the course of a year, a typical NFL stadium uses enough electricity to power more than 1,000 average U.S. homes. Multiply that across the league's 32 teams, and you could power a city the size of Rochester, Minnesota. That electricity can cost a football team millions of dollars a year. So some teams are coming up with new power plays to save money and help the planet. The highlights from Chief Correspondent Tyler Suiters in this Energy Now Spotlight.
This year was last year, the first time we played the Eagles, the first time I first started in the NFL.
One look at Lorenzo Alexander's family room, and you know it. This man plays football, and he plays it well.
It says Player of the Year.
Yeah, special teams.
Yep.
And it's crazy because I've come a long way. Being undrafted in the NFL, nobody wanted me.
Now, Alexander is a special teams demon with the Washington Redskins, kicking off his 7th year in the National Football League. And he has the marks to prove it.
One of the things I noticed is how nicked up this jersey is.
Right.
You play pretty hardcore.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely a game-worn jersey. I always play 100%.
But maybe his most telling trophy sits outside Alexander's Virginia home. Yeah, he has the professional athlete mega SUV, but parked next to it, a gasoline-sipping 4-door hybrid, a sign that the linebacker wants to live a greener life.
True, I think I just allow people to see that it is okay, to go across the grain. NFL player riding in a small Prius is not the norm.
And neither is the game plan Alexander's team is putting into play. The Redskins' home stadium, FedEx Field, it's now using brand new solar panels, the largest solar array in the entire league, and it's generating about 20% of the power the stadium needs on game days.
This really came from the standpoint that we wanted to do something to look at the alternative, look at the clean energy sources, and really be progressive.
Redskins team owner Dan Snyder isn't known for his patience, so once he decided to partner with NRG on the solar project, well, you think Snyder's players move fast? The Redskins announced the move back in July. Construction at FedEx Field started later that month, and in September, the panels were up and running.
I think you're going to have an opportunity here where other teams will see this and say, this is the future, we need to be doing this.
Do you ever think about how much energy the team uses during the game day? Yeah. I know you're pretty busy.
Yeah, well, you got to think about it. We got those big old jumbotrons, and you got 90,000 people coming in and out of there, and the lights and everything like that. So finding a way to get some clean energy is always good.
Kickoff for the Redskins solar array came against the Arizona Cardinals. And the Philadelphia Eagles are also installing solar panels and wind turbines at their home stadium. But it was a bird of a different feather that started the clean energy push at pro football stadiums around the league. The Seattle Seahawks installed the NFL's very first stadium solar array. There are almost 4,000 solar panels, tubes actually, on top of this building next to CenturyLink Field. The result?
Our owner was generous enough to and forward-thinking enough to put renewable energy up on a big flat roof that isn't doing anything else.
The owner, Mike McFall, is referring to That's Paul Allen, who knows a little bit about the technology of tomorrow. The Seahawks team owner is a Microsoft co-founder and a driving force behind the greening of pro sports. His Green Sports Alliance Summit in Portland this summer drew reps from the NFL as well as other sports. The event's main message: the businesses of sports and science go hand in hand.
18% of Americans say they pay attention to science. 56% of Americans say they pay attention to sports. So if you want to influence American culture, are you going to send scientists out there to spout out the latest facts about global climate disruption? Or are you going to send a message to the supply chain that solar panels are being put on football stadiums?
For the Seahawks, it's not just about solar panels.
Yes, this is a facility control center right here.
It's not much to look at, I got to admit.
No, but the PCs housed here and the engineer handling the mouse, they control every light in the stadium. New high-output fluorescent lamps, lights with motion sensors, even the gigantic scoreboard. All of them are now using energy more efficiently. McFall says he expects to cut his stadium's annual energy usage by more than 20%. A play that Alexander expects more teams to start running.
And I guarantee you, soon to follow, other teams will start doing it, because this is a copycat league, whether you're playing football or on the business side of it. Everybody
right?
tries to follow everybody's suit. Yeah, exactly.
We hear so much about your players being regarded as role models for the community. Is an NFL team a role model for American businesses in some sense?
I hope so, yeah. It's a great question, because I really would like people to see this, both consumers and businesses, and have the opportunity to understand that we are actually creating 100% of our electrical power on non-game days.
And creating a clean energy competition among the players as well. You see, Silicon Valley is the home of clean technology. Lorenzo Alexander played his college ball not far away at Cal. And his fellow Redskins defender, Oshimago Itagwe, he went to Stanford. So both California guys have a green reputation to guard.
Lorenzo said he knew more about being green because he's a Cal Bear. I'd imagine as a Stanford Cardinal, you got a little different take on that.
Yeah, his idea of going green is eating spinach or something like that. Them Bears have absolutely no idea what it means to go green.
Ask him when he drives to work.
What is it?
He has some high-performance Camaro or something that's sucking up 93 gasoline.
You said he's driving a Prius, though. Are you getting 50 miles a gallon?
I ride my bike, so I don't know.
He definitely doesn't have me beat at all, so I have the Prius and the bike.
A pair of NFL role models ready for America's clean energy future. With the Redskins in Washington and the Seahawks in Seattle, Tyler Suiters, Energy Now.
The clean energy kick is apparently catching on among Washington Redskins fans. Washington, D.C. has won the EPA's first ever Green Power Community Challenge for using the most amount of green power in a year. D.C.'s businesses, residents, and government used enough renewable power to meet 8% of the city's total electricity use. Coming up on Energy Now, meet the man who holds the key and the government cash that could lead to a clean energy revolution.
This is our children and grandchildren. Their security, okay, depends on what we do in energy.
But first,
there's lots of wind power right at our door. We just let it blow by, such waste is sin.
Why are these ladies singing about wasting wind power? We'll explain when we come back.
Energy Now is celebrating its first anniversary. Thanks to you, our show now reaches over 150,000 TV and web viewers every week. From Washington to Beijing, from Houston to Tel Aviv. We tell you about new energy jobs, breakthrough technologies, climate action, and how to cut back America's dangerous reliance on foreign oil, which is costing our economy roughly $300 billion a year.
We've got to get on our own resources.
When are we going to make this jump?
But the in-depth reports you see on Energy Now also have a price tag. So to keep Energy Now growing, we want to form new partnerships with foundations and corporations who are equally concerned about America's energy future.
What we do right here has a direct impact on what happens here.
Join us in bringing Energy Now's message to more and more viewers. Please have your company or foundation contact us today.
Welcome back. We just saw how renewable energy is gaining ground in the NFL, but elsewhere it's getting blocked. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce says about 45% of renewable projects across America fail to get off the ground because of local opposition and other obstacles. Remember Cape Wind off the Massachusetts coast, the nation's first proposed offshore wind farm? It took 9 years for developers to get a permit over the opposition of locals, including the late Senator Ted Kennedy. They claim it's an eyesore and a navigation hazard, and they are still trying to stop the project in court. EnergyNOW's Lee Patrick Sullivan took a closer look at this not in my backyard syndrome and discovered how it's preventing people from taking charge of their energy use.
With over 3,000 miles of Great Lakes shore, there's lots of wind power right at our door.
Meet the Michigan chapter of the Raging Grannies, a national band of senior citizen environmentalists. This group of grannies want to see the completion of a wind farm off the shores of Grosse Pointe, Michigan. That's right outside Detroit. The proposed farm is being opposed by local residents and sailboat owners. They claim the turbines create dead air, making it harder to sail, and the turbines will be unsightly.
It's that not in my backyard, the NIMBY syndrome.
So you think getting a nuclear or coal-fired power plant built is hard? Try getting renewable energy up and running. This was the scene in Massachusetts when the offshore wind project named Cape Wind was being proposed. Off the coast of Virginia, the military is opposed to offshore wind, claiming turbines will interfere with their training. And in the Mojave Desert, a rare tortoise protected by the Endangered Species Act has slowed development of a massive solar farm. And it doesn't have to be large projects. Take Maryland homeowner Robert Bruniga, for example. He's an engineer during the week, inventor on the weekends. His latest project was turning his unused boat dock into a solar field to provide electricity for his home.
I applied to the state to put my solar panels on the pier, and they've said no.
They said no because, according to Maryland state law, nothing is allowed on a pier unless it's of aquatic nature.
If I've got 100 feet of pier that's just sitting out there in the sun all day long, why can't I put solar panels on it?
Solar panels were also on the mind of Maryland homeowner Patrick Earl. The high school science and environmental teacher wanted to harness the power of the sun for his family. The only thing standing in his way was an old silver maple tree, like this one.
When we started looking at the trade-offs between having an aging tree or investing in renewable clean energy, it was a pretty simple decision for us.
Earl had to first get the permission of the Tacoma Park arborist. You know, a guy who takes care of trees. Yeah, I know. I didn't know cities had arborists either. Let's see. An environmental science teacher living in Tacoma Park, Maryland, which just happens to be one of the most environmentally conscious cities in the entire country, and solar power. Sounds like a slam dunk, right? Well, not so fast.
Tacoma Park is one of a few that have private urban forestry management programs.
Translation? The homeowners in Tacoma Park have to ask permission to cut down trees on their own land. Patrick Earl was aware of the rules and knew he would have to replant trees to replace the silver maple, but he was shocked when he was told he would have to replant 23 trees in its place.
I thought that, okay, this is fair. I was completely prepared to plant 3 or 4 trees. I had no idea that they'd asked me to essentially plant a small forest.
And given his property is only 1/6 of an acre, there wasn't even room to plant all those trees. The other option was for him to pay $4,000 into the city's tree fund.
And it really was putting the project out of reach for me and was going to be a deal breaker.
Bolton, the city arborist, says the law is there because trees are an important resource for Tacoma Park, not because he's a tree lover.
You know, I don't really love trees. I respect them and believe they're worth protecting and caring for what they provide us in return.
Benefits like stormwater retention, providing shade for houses during the summer, and blocking cold winds in the winter. So Patrick Earl went to work trying to find a loophole in the law, and he found one. It turns out that the ordinance doesn't say that the trees actually have to be planted on his property. He also was able to get the city to reduce the number of trees to 15 if he planted bigger ones. He then went around town giving out free trees to his neighbors. Total cost? About $600. And now Earl and his family are proud owners of a rooftop solar array, providing about 75% of his home's electricity needs.
So this is what's left of the famous silver maple.
Yep, this is it.
Despite his solar victory, Earl wasn't successful in getting the city council to take into consideration the benefits of solar power when deciding how many trees should be replanted.
I'm not trying to advocate that we clear the forest here and put panels on a roof, but in places where it makes sense, I think we need to be a little more flexible.
As for Robert Bruninga, he's been appealing to the state of Maryland for a year and a half to make some sort of ordinance for solar panels on boat piers. Until then, he has to set up his panels on the ground in the back of his house, having to move them every month because of the shade from the trees.
We need to come up with a set of rules that are tasteful so that kind of everybody agrees, both the person that's installing it and the other people that have to live with it.
For now, it looks like renewable energy advocates are going to have to deal with the age-old problem of not in my backyard. Or in the case of Bruninga, only in his backyard. And back in Michigan, the grannies say they will keep on raging until they see wind turbines generating electricity on Lake St. Clair.
We just let it blow by, such waste is sin. But Canada's smart, they're gonna harvest that wind.
In Grosse Pointe, Michigan, Lee Patrick Sullivan, Energy Now.
The raging grannies in Lee's piece gave us a good excuse to share some historical footage on wind power. During World War II, when electricity was being rationed for the war effort, the United Kingdom harnessed the wind to meet some of its energy needs. That ingenuity kept going after the war, as you'll see in this Energy Then from 1951.
High above London, the sails of a modern windmill feel for the breeze. Nearly 70 years after electricity was first generated for public supply, man turns once more to the wind for power. In these 8 6-volt car batteries, the power generated by the wind is stored. At 450 revolutions per minute, the current builds up. What does it mean to you? Just the gaiety of shop window lighting, despite the ban.
Today, the UK gets about 3% of its electricity from wind, according to the nation's Department of Energy and Climate Change. Now, to compare, the US gets about 2% of its electricity from wind. Still ahead, America's clean energy evangelist, leading the charge and trying to energize the country.
Just like we did for jeans, just like we did for cars in the past, that's exactly what we need to do. Hollywood, we need to do that for clean energy technologies.
You'll meet him in a moment.
We're fighting to make every section a smoke-free section. For a day when even vehicles quit smoking. We're fighting for clear skies over every city. The American Lung Association isn't just fighting for air, we're fighting for all the things that make it worth breathing. Join us in the fight at fightingforair.org.
The United States, once the world leader in technological innovation, is falling behind, particularly in energy. That dire alarm was raised by an elite group of scientists 5 years ago, and it's been repeated time and time again. Well, Congress took that warning to heart in 2007, creating ARPA-E, the Advanced Research Projects Agency Energy, to fund the development of breakthrough technologies. Steering the ship and doling out the cash for projects that could change our energy future and security is a former scientist turned politician of sorts. Meet Arun Majumdar. Call him a champion of risk-taking who considers failure a badge of honor.
The United States always had the history of pioneers, of entrepreneurs, of trying something and not be afraid of failure.
Since his agency first secured funding in 2009, Arun Majumdar has relished spending taxpayers' money to make America first in the global race to clean, reliable, affordable energy. It's his job, actually. A message he takes to military forums.
Just like we did for jeans, Hollywood, we need to do that for clean energy technologies.
And gatherings of college students alike.
Governor, the secretaries, these are the rock stars of the future.
Where the Majumdar mantra is picked up by his boss, Energy Secretary Stephen Chu, and other big energy leaders.
As an immigrant coming to America, for the simple reason that America was the #1 place. So I despise seeing any other country being ahead of us.
Getting to the goal line, though, comes down to the cash. Of the thousands who apply for government grants, only a handful are selected. Most of the projects at universities or different places?
About roughly one third is at universities. One third is at small startup companies that spun out of universities.
The agency is modeled after the Defense Department's decades-old DARPA. That agency is credited with producing innovations we take for granted today, the internet and GPS. And it's that innovative spirit Majumdar hopes to tap.
We sent the first people to moon, right? We were the first ones to make the transistor and the integrated circuit, and first people to make the internet, right? Why are we behind in energy?
In the 4 rounds of funding, 181 ventures have received grants of $550,000 to $9 million. What do you think are going to be the big game changers?
Well, you're asking me, like, which of my kids are going to run 100 meters in 9 seconds. It's hard for me to say at this point.
But this PhD of mechanical engineering admits an exciting venture is the next generation of batteries. They're expected to be more powerful, lighter, and even cheaper than what we use now.
Lithium-air batteries. This is the holy grail for batteries. The highest, about 20 times more energy density than today's lithium-ion batteries.
Other projects focus on cheaper, more efficient semiconductors for hybrid and electric vehicles and growing a biodiesel. One company found a new way to harness wind energy, and another thinks it's found a way to store it.
ARPA-E was looking for storage technologies that would enable renewables to come into the marketplace in a bigger way.
David Marcus, the president of General Compression, says $750,000 from ARPA-E was enough to build a machine that he couldn't reveal for proprietary reasons. But the overall plan is this. Unused wind energy is used to compress air, which is then stored in underground salt caverns. When electricity is needed, the air expands through a generator. And here's the key, without burning fuel.
We're about 70 to 75% round trip efficient. And our business plan is to marry that storage technology with utility scale wind farms so the two of them together can sell dispatchable power.
The ARPA-E-backed idea was enough to attract $12 million in private investment. Is it a government stamp of approval that says you're going to succeed?
There's no such thing. And what it is it's a government review that has said you're not obviously ridiculous, that your idea has some merit.
And Marcus credits Arun Majumdar as the driving force that could push the concept toward potential large-scale commercial success.
I don't know that there'd be an ARPA-E without Arun. He's doing hero's work.
You know, David Marcus of General Compression said to me, of you specifically, he said, you know, Arun is doing hero's work.
Oh, well, thank you.
Well, but this
they are the ones who are actually doing the work, though.
And while they do the work, Majumdar is keeping his eye on the goal.
I consider this, the future of our nation. This is our children and grandchildren. Their security, okay, depends on what we do in energy. And because if we get that right, we will ensure security for our children and grandchildren.
Majumdar reminds everyone that energy technologies are, in his words, the biggest business opportunity out there. But it's an expensive one, and getting money from Congress hasn't been easy. ARPA-E asked for $300 million in funding for 2011. Congress approved a little more than half that, $180 million. While ARPA-E was trying to bring breakthrough technologies to market, we found a revolutionary energy idea at a gym in Columbia, Maryland, one that depends on spinning wheels and, yes, a lot of sweat. That's what's in this week's Energy Now Hot Zone.
The
Green Revolution was founded really from my partner, Jay Whalen. He was going through physical rehabilitation, and he was putting all this effort into working these machines. And we were just chatting about it one night, and he's like, you know, I'm putting all this energy in, what happens to it? So we decided, well, maybe there's a way to harness some of that fitness energy and put it to some good use.
Talk about your speed, and you stay committed right there.
In our garage, we designed the very first generator. We put it on a road bike, and one of our kids was actually, you know, lighting up light bulbs. So he said, oh, okay, this could work. So now, while the bike is being used, this flywheel on the bike is turning. You're actually turning the generator. So you're the one actually creating the electricity. And this cable carries the electricity back to a grid-tied inverter in the back of the room. All the power comes in. It's all coming through this, you know, this big pipe of cabling here. So 28 lines go in, one line comes out. So that is now 120 volt AC power that's going directly into the electrical panel of this health club. So while people are working out on the bikes, their demand for electricity decreases. On this computer, you can see this is how much electricity the entire class is generating while they're cycling, and that gets shown on the big screen in the front of the room.
And it is kind of neat to be able to see your wattage increase. Then you get a feel for your fitness level.
Everybody has their own individual number they can read right on the bike. And so every time they work out, they want to see that they're improving. It's very motivating for them, and it helps to measure their performance. Plus, they like to know that they're doing something that's good for the environment.
And relax. Oh.
Since its launch in 2009, the Green Revolution system is now amping up the power in 50 health clubs across North America. And Mike Kernan says he hopes to build an even bigger export business by expanding into Europe and South America. Finally, you had a lot to say about our show on solar power. Many of your comments on our Facebook page and our website, energynow.com, were about correspondent Patty Kim's story on the Cincinnati Zoo leasing solar panels. It hit home for Bonnie Pence of Cincinnati, who wrote, "If no one tried anything new, we would be stuck in the 1800s. This project at Cincinnati Zoo is really impressive." Sabrina Priscilla Frampton of New York City agreed. "This is very efficient. This kind of progress is what we need to bring forth a higher quality of life." And on solar loan guarantees, Joel Yoakum of Spring Hill, Kansas said, "The government isn't smart enough to figure out who should be supported and who should be abandoned." Finally, on the story about Trey Pippen's solar farm in Georgia, Jake Ronan of Los Angeles wrote simply, "Way cool." And we think it's cool to hear your comments. So reach out to us on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter. Search for us at Energy Now News. Plus, read our blogs, watch extras, and let us know what you're thinking on our website at energynow.com. That's it for this week's Energy Now. I'm Tyler Suiters. See you next week.
Help us make Energy Now a continuing success in our second year. To keep growing, we want to form new partnerships with foundations and corporations who are equally concerned about America's energy future. Join us in bringing our message to more and more viewers. Please have your company or foundation contact Energy Now.